All right, so we're in the new Topless Talk studio. A lot has transpired since Topless Talk originally came to be, and I'm gonna go ahead and share with you some of that evolution. So originally, I was married. I'm no longer married. I'm divorced. And Topless Talk was an idea that came to me in the middle of the night. It was kind of like I was awoken from a dream or from my sleep, and I had this idea to create this talk show. And the original intent and purpose behind it was for me, throughout my marriage struggled with, it was one of the things that just these ups and downs. And it was because I was frustrated. I was struggling with my own desires and wants and inability to actually communicate what I wanted because part of it was the religion that I was, raised in had, created this idea of what, marriage and sexuality should be. And so I was, fighting with all of these different things. And I had recently went on a weight loss journey and I lost 50 pounds. And I found myself becoming more and more attractive to other women. But my wife at the time wasn't finding me, or at least she wasn't expressing herself in a very sexual way towards me. And so as part of a way to just find myself and to heal, I discovered that, nearby there's these beaches and I just wanted to go and I just wanted to experience the freedom of being naked in nature and communicating with other people and having to be non-sexual. And it was interesting because after the first experience I had, sitting there at the river, talking to beautiful women, topless, sometimes completely nude, there were no desires, no sexual fantasies, no that was happening. And I literally, overnight, kicked my habit because I realized that on one hand, it wasn't real. But this was a real, genuine connection with women and having a great conversation with them. And so as that particular year of river season wind down and came to a close, I was finding myself going through withdrawals, if you will. The river was my new drug and I had to substitute one for another, basically. And this is where the idea of Topless Talk came from. So one night I was sleeping and the idea came to me was to bring the river to me. I'm like, bring the river to me? I'm like, what are we going to do? And the idea, I'm going to have a Topless Talk show. So I told my wife at the time, I'm like, hey, I'm going to have a Topless Talk show. And she's like, yeah, good luck with that. This is going to want to be on your show. Because I know self-respecting woman's going to be on your show, let alone get topless for you. And sure enough, it was a hit. We had, I think in the first month, I did about 16 or 17 shows. And I was blown away by that. I was like, wow, there's something here. And it transformed, though, in the process. So right around show number 8 or 9, it was, hey, I'm having this Topless Talk show. One, because I wanted to see boobs. I mean, who doesn't like boobs, right? We have a wall of boobs. For all of our guests that have been on the show, we have a Polaroid. We've taken a picture and they autographed it and put it on the wall. But it was more about me trying to understand, where is my relationship with my wife and where can it be and where can it go? It was interesting because a lot of the guests were talking about how they were having sex with their partners multiple times a day, multiple times a week. And here I was having, sex with my wife every week or 4 times a month. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I can learn from these women. I can learn from this. So what started off first as me wanting to learn about boobs, or see more boobs, in a real life study, transformed into I can learn from some of these women and their relationships. So it became about we're going to talk about relationships, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I thought that that's where it was going to be. But right around show 8 or 9, we had a guest, and she totally was like, this was so healing for me. Being able to come onto the show and express and talk freely about sex and my sexuality and my relationships with men, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and just get all of this ick off my chest has been so helpful. I feel like it's been a healing component in my journey. And I was at that point where I realized, I'm like, this show is bigger than me. I'm just one guy who had an idea about, hey, I'm going to create a talk show so I can see boobs. Big whoopee deal, right? Not a big deal. But what it turned into was we got women coming into the show, sharing their stories, some horrific stories, and then how they became their own personal hero in their journey. Some terrible, terrifying experiences, and then how they triumphed. And I thought, you know what? This show is going to be bigger than me. It's going to be bigger than one individual guest or two. This is going to be a show of transformative value for a lot of people, both men and women alike. This is going to be a show where women can come and they can share their experiences and they can talk about where they have been and then where they are going or where they have gone. and be a beacon of hope for other women. They can share their stories and they can say, look, you're not alone. You're not the only one going through this. We've been through this as well. Some of us has triumphed and we've made it through. Look to us as a light. And so this show, Topless Talk, is basically meant to be a beacon of light to women that are in not so good circumstances with their partners and, romantically. And that's what the whole idea is. And so the goal I had very, very early on, I saw the vision, was I want to do 1,000 episodes to change 1 million lives. Now, I'm far from that goal. So I went through a divorce. So it was interesting. One day I came home and my wife was like, hey, I watched one of your podcasts finally. And it had been I think I was into episode maybe 18 or 19 around that time. And she's like, I watched one of your shows. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. How was it? She's like, it was a real treat. I was feeling so proud. I'm like, oh, she sees the value in this. And she goes, no, I'm just kidding. It sucked. I'm disgusted by you. You repulse me. And don't even think about having me for a very, very long time, 6 months minimum. And I was like, whoa, okay. That's pretty harsh. We were already having issues maritally. And so at that point, I knew that I needed to pull the plug. And I did. I pulled the plug that very night, actually. That was basically the beginning of the end of my marriage. We went through a 2-year divorce. Happily to say, we are great co-parents. She's a wonderful mom. She's a beautiful person. I would say that we're friendly, but we're not friends. We don't do things together, but I do care about her. I care about her happiness, her well-being. And I'm fortunate to say that we do have a great relationship in raising our beautiful children. So, but along that way, Topless Talk had to take the back seat. While going through the divorce, it was threatened by her attorney that this would be used against me, looked at as that they're going to try to use it as a way to get more money from me because I'm obviously making money from this show in some form or another, or else why would I be doing it? All these different things. And so what I had to make a decision. I pulled Topless Talk. I think at that point we had close to about 50 episodes. I pulled those episodes down. It's been about 18 months. I still recorded some after the fact. And you'll see, as you look at these videos, you'll see the old studio. You'll see some of them in my home. On the couch, you'll see some of them in my now new home, in my office, and then you'll see some here in this podcast studio as we continue to build it out. So you'll see that there's been an evolution. Not every show. I'm kind of fortunate because when I pulled it down, it gave me the opportunity to go back and to reflect. My beliefs have changed. I have refined my thought process around sexuality, around women, around the idea of relationships, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I thought back to school. As a result, I have a healing practice. I work with women to help them to overcome childhood trauma and relationship trauma. It's a very specific use of that I use to release the trauma that's trapped inside the body, because the body keeps score. And one thing that I learned is, as the body's keeping score, if we continue to go through life, getting these bumps and scrapes, these nicks and bruises, how do you even the score? Well, that's one of the things that I figured out. I figured it out for myself first. I figured it out for my partner, who I'm with right now, and I figured it out for a host of other women that I was in my open relationship that I had worked with, refined this process, and that's where healing came into play, which is where my new company now, or my new sexual healing practice, is called Heal Your Heartbreak. Because one thing that I've decided, or that I've learned, is that most of the trauma, most of the heartbreak that we have the heartbreak is what causes this trauma. It's usually from someone who we love and trust, whether it's a family member or whether it's a partner. There's some kind of heartbreak that causes this rip, that causes this trauma that needs to be released because it's trapped. It's old relationship energy that's stuck and trapped inside our bodies and our hearts and our souls. And is the body's natural way to cleanse itself. It's the most powerful energetic cleanse that we have. And so why not use that as a way to go ahead and cleanse our body, to free itself up, so that we can be free to go and find new relationships, new love, without having the past, cast its ugly shadow and have its hooks inside of us. And so that's the idea where, sexual healing came from. And funnier, believe it or not, funny story is, from all of the different Topless Talk shows that we have done, boob breeding was one of the things that came out of it. We've had several guests where we had a segment where I can guess your personality from your tit. And they would get topless, and I've always been an intuitive person. So I'd be very intuitive, and I would look at their and be like, oh, yeah, you're this and you're that. Like I said, I can tell you're this kind of person. And, for the most part, most of it landed really well. And then I went back and I reviewed most of my videos, and I'm like, oh my God, there is definitely a pattern here. You see enough nipple placements and different things shapes and sizes and all of that you start to recognize patterns. That's one thing that I've always been really good at, is pattern. When I was in real estate, I recognized patterns and trends. It's just, that was where my degree was in sociology and being a social worker and working with couples in counseling. is that I would also figure out like, okay, what is the family pattern here? What is the pattern that's happening? Behavioral pattern, communication pattern, and whatever it was a pattern. So naturally, my brain associated itself with patterns here as we talk about boob. And so learn to recognize that there's some universal biomarkers that are across the board true for the hundreds that I've done. I've done close to, I think about, at this point, almost 700 boobs. It's been a beautiful experience for me, for a guy who loves boobs, who has been able to, take his passion and turn it into something that's, beneficial and helpful. I've had a lot of great success working with women that are not local, that I've just done through a picture even, given them readings, and they changed their life around. Some of them gone to rehab, some of them have, been able to restore they see in their marriage, because they realize that, oh my God, I can see, like they're telling a story. There's a story that my brother's telling, and he can see it, he can read it clearly. If he can read it, then that must mean that everyone else can as well, in other shapes and forms. And so whatever, I've been able to, basically just tell the story that I see with these boob readings. And so that came from Topless Talk. So there's been a lot of great things that have come from Topless Talk. And so I've gone back and I've watched a lot of my episodes. There are a lot of episodes that just don't serve me. They don't serve the community, and they don't serve Topless Talk. And so you won't see those. So if you are an old-time subscriber or fan or friend of Topless Talk, and you remember a few of the earlier episodes, and you're wondering where they're at, they, one, either haven't been released yet, or two, they'll never be released, because they just aren't a proper reflection of where the show is destined to go. And so it's a distraction and doesn't need to be there. And so with that said, this is going to be the intro video to Topless Talk, and then we are going to go ahead and release brand new content that you've never seen before, and some old content weaved in there as well. And the goal, again, is for Topless Talk to do 1,000 episodes to change 1 million lives, to help women realize that you're not alone, that there are other beautiful women out there that have gone through similar processes and they made it through. And you could use their story, leverage their experiences to be a beacon of hope, basically a life raft in a world that can be very tumultuous at times. And just hold on to that and, have the faith and the hope that you're going to come out on the other end better than you were before, and that you and your life is going to continue, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. So that's what Topless Talk is meant to be. And as your host, myself, Ryan Nickel, you'll see me interviewing a lot of beautiful women, and you'll have woven in there some of them will be clients that I have worked with through healing. Some of them will have been, women that have gotten boob readings. You may want to experience healing. You may want to know what a boob reading is, and that's totally fine. The show will highlight those things, but it won't be the main focus. The main focus is basically where someone has been and where they're going, and how their relationships, with sex and their partners, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how it has transformed into something hopefully better from where they were at. And that's the whole idea of how Topless Talk is going to transform the way that we look at relationships. Hopefully you learn a lot, gain a lot of things, and maybe even have some introspective approaches as well, and realize, hey, is this what's going on in my relationship? Is there something that I can do to improve to make my relationship better? Or be like, fantastic, you know what? I would love to be a guest. I have been there. I have done that. And I now have made this beautiful part of my life what it is. And so if you want to be a guest on our show, we would love to have that. If you just want to go ahead and like and subscribe and just be a loyal follower, we'd love to have that as well. Anyway, we are here to serve you, and I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to grow with you and to be able to share this new direction, light, and commitment with Topless Talk.